You know, for a lot of people, a military career starts right here, with a single test. So in this explainer, we're going to break that test down piece by piece and figure out exactly how to conquer it, together.
Welcome. Today, we are cracking the ASVAB, and we're going to zero in on the general science and math sections. I know, it can feel like this massive hurdle, but stick with me. I promise that by the end of this, you'll see it's a challenge you are absolutely ready to take on. So what even is the ASVAB? Well, it stands for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, which is a mouthful. Basically, it's a multiple-choice test the military uses to see what you're good at and to help figure out which jobs are the perfect fit for you. It sounds super intimidating, but our whole goal today is to pull back the curtain and make it way less scary. And here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll decode the test itself. Then, we'll jump into an arithmetic workout. After that, we'll cover the science essentials, put a spotlight on electronics, and finally, we'll wrap it all up by building your personal ASVAB game plan. Ready? Okay, let's dive right in with part 1, decoding the ASVAB. Seriously, just knowing what you're walking into is half the battle. So let's look at the ground rules so you can go in feeling confident.
All right, these are some core facts you've got to know. First up, no calculators. That means you'll want to get comfortable doing some math by hand again. Second, the test is computer adaptive. This is actually pretty cool. It means the questions get harder or easier based on how you're doing. So if you suddenly feel like the questions are getting tough, take a breath and smile, because that's a great sign. It means you're crushing it. And get this, most of the math is stuff you saw in middle school or maybe freshman year. And the best part? For most people, a solid week or two of studying is all it takes. You can totally do this.
Okay, time to roll up our sleeves for an arithmetic workout. This section is all about those dreaded word problems, right? So let's take one apart, step by step, and see that it's really not so bad.
So here's a pretty typical problem you might see. We've got a tennis court, and we need to figure out the size difference between the singles court and the doubles court. So where do we even begin?
Well, don't get lost in the words. The first step is to find the core idea. A tennis court is just a big rectangle, right? So this whole question just boils down to one simple formula you definitely know. Area equals length times width. That's it. That's our foundation. Now, let's just get our numbers organized. Look here. The length, 78 feet, stays the same for both. The width for singles is 27 feet. Now for doubles, and this is the key part, we add 4.5 feet to each side. So that's 4.5 plus 4.5, which is an extra 9 feet. Add that to the original 27, and you get a new width of 36 feet. Okay, now for the fun part. Let's crunch the numbers. For the singles court, we do 78 times 27, which gives us 2,106 square feet. For the doubles court, it's 78 times 36, which is 2,808. We're almost there. The last step is just to find out how much bigger it is, so we subtract.
And boom, there's our answer. 2,808 minus 2,106 is 702 square feet. See that? A word problem that looked kind of complicated just turned into a few simple calculations once we broke it down. That's the secret.
All right, let's switch gears to the general science essentials. Now for this section, I've got a simple little study rhythm that works wonders. It's just 3 steps. Define it, test it, and explain it. Let me show you how it works. First, we define the concept. Let's take Newton's first law of motion. All this really says is that things like to keep doing what they're already doing. If a ball is sitting still, it's going to stay still. If it's rolling, it's going to keep rolling, unless something like your foot or friction stops it.
Okay, now we tested. Here's a question straight out of the ASVAB playbook. Based on what we just said, Newton's first law is also known as the law of what? What do you think?
And finally, we explain it. The answer is B, inertia. That's the official sciencey term for an object's tendency to resist a change in motion. So you see the pattern? Define, test, explain. It really helps lock these concepts in your brain.
Let's try it one more time with a biology concept. We define genotype as the genetic code itself. Think of it like the architect's blueprint for a building. Then we define phenotype as the physical thing you can actually see, like the finished building. So genotype is the blueprint, phenotype is the building. Now, if we were testing this, a question might ask, what term describes your eye color? Well, since you can see it, that's the phenotype. Easy, right?
Okay, let's talk about electronics. Now, this is the section that trips a lot of people up. But doing well here can really open up some amazing career paths, like in avionics or military communications. I want to show you that even a circuit problem that looks super complex is really just a puzzle waiting to be solved. And like any good puzzle, you just need the key.
So here's our challenge problem. We've got something called a parallel circuit, 2 resistors, and we need the total resistance. At first glance, this looks like something you'd see in an engineering class, but I promise you, it's not as scary as the looks.
You just need the formula. And here it is. This is the key that unlocks the whole problem. Now, I know it looks like a mess of fractions, but I want you to think of it like a recipe. All we have to do is put our ingredients, our numbers, in the right places and just follow the instructions.
And here's that recipe in action. Step 1, we plug in our numbers, 25 and 100. Step 2, we handle the fractions on the bottom. To add them, we need a common denominator, which is 100. So 1/25 becomes 4 100ths. Step 3, we add those together to get 5 100ths. Now, remember how to divide by a fraction? You just keep change flip. So we flip 5 over 100 to get 100 over 5.
And our last step is the easiest one. 100 divided by 5 is 20. The total resistance is 20 ohms. The big lesson here? That terrifying electronics problem was just a formula and some middle school math in disguise.
So we've broken down problems in math, science, and even electronics. We've seen that they're all totally manageable. Now let's pull all these tips together and build your personal game plan for success.
Here it is, your study game plan. It's pretty straightforward. First, practice your basic math without a calculator. Just get used to it. Second, review the big ideas from your high school science classes. You don't need to be an expert. Third, definitely make flashcards for those key math formulas. Fourth, and this is huge, take practice tests. They're the absolute best way to figure out where you need to focus your energy. And just keep this in mind. For most people, 1 to 2 weeks of focused effort can change everything.
So, there you have it, a roadmap for tackling the ASVAB. We've demystified some of the trickiest parts, but the next move is all yours. Looking at everything we covered, what's your first target? Which one of these sections will you decide to master first? Your prep starts right now. Go get 'em.